The rain fell heavy on the metal roofs of Outpost 12. It was the kind of night when people stayed inside, locking doors, afraid of what the wind carried from the dark sky. The Earth's colony was far from the safety of the main cities, and strange things happened here after sunset. Captain Mara Vale was not expecting visitors. She had finished her patrol and was ready to sleep when the knock came. It was not a polite knock. It was desperate, fast, like someone running from danger. She opened the steel door. There stood an alien man, tall, silver skin glowing under the rain, sharp eyes that seemed to look through her in his hands. He held a young woman, soaked, shivering, her face pale under the yellow porch light. Without asking, he placed the woman in Mara's arms. "She is your problem now," the alien man said, his voice cold and without emotion. Before Mara could speak, he turned and walked away into the night, his long coat whipping in the wind. No goodbye, no explanation. Only the sound of rain swallowing his footsteps. Mara looked at the woman. Her hair was tangled with dirt, her clothes torn, her breathing weak. She noticed strange marks on her neck, not injuries, but symbols burned into her skin. The woman whispered something, but the words were in a language Mara didn't understand. Allah. Mara pulled her inside, locking the door. The outpost's heater hummed as Mara wrapped the woman in a blanket. She made hot tea and tried again. "What happened? Who are you?" Mara asked. The woman's eyes darted to the door, fear flashing in them. "He will come back," she said softly in broken English. "He does not want me, but they will." "Who will?" Mara asked, but the woman closed her eyes, refusing to speak more. Mara had seen aliens before, traitors, diplomats, mercenaries, but something about the silver-skinned man felt different. His eyes were like weapons, and his words carried no care, no guilt, as if abandoning this woman was nothing to him. Yet there was something else, the way he looked at Mara for just a moment before leaving, as if warning her about something unseen. That night, Mara let the woman sleep in her bed. She took the chair beside the door, plasma pistol in hand, watching the shadows outside. The wind howled like a living thing, carrying whispers against the walls. Mara could not sleep. Every creak of the outpost made her grip her pistol tighter. Around midnight, the woman woke. Gasping, "They are here," she whispered, before Mara could ask. The lights flickered, the heater died, and the outpost was swallowed by silence. Then came the first sound, a faint scraping at the window. Not human, not metal, but something, like claws dragging against glass. Mara moved silently to the corner, signaling the woman to stay down. Through the window, she saw shapes moving in the dark. Too many legs, glowing eyes. They were not aliens Mara had ever seen before. They were hunting. The woman grabbed Mara's arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "If they find me, they will take you too," she said. Her voice was shaking, but there was something hidden in her tone, a secret she wasn't ready to share. The scraping grew louder, moving from the window to the door. Something outside began to speak, not in words, but in a deep, vibrating hum that made the air shake. The woman covered her ears, whispering "No, no, no," over and over. Mara aimed her pistol at the door, her finger ready on the trigger. Suddenly, a beam of light shot through the darkness outside. The scraping stopped, the hum faded, and the shapes vanished through the rain. Mara saw him, the silver-skinned alien man, standing at the edge of the outpost, holding a weapon unlike any she had seen. He didn't look at Mara this time, only at the woman. Then, without a word, he turned again and disappeared into the storm. Mara's heart pounded. Who was he? Why had he left the woman here if he was going to protect her? And what were those creatures in the dark? The woman sat on the bed, silent, her eyes filled with both relief and fear. Mara knew one thing. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. Outside, the storm raged on. But inside Outpost 12, something far more dangerous had just begun. The storm was still roaring outside when morning came. Mara had not slept. Her eyes heavy, but her mind sharp. The woman, still wrapped in Mara's blanket, sat quietly on the bed, staring at the wall as if listening to something far away. "What's your name?" Mara asked again. Gently, the woman hesitated, then spoke in a soft, tired voice. "Leora," she said. "My name is Leora." Her accent was strange, the words slow, like each one had to fight its way out. Mara nodded. Leora. Those creatures last night, what were they? Leora's eyes darkened. They are called the Sarn, she said. They follow the scent. They don't stop. Mara leaned forward. And the silver-skinned man? He knew they were here. Leora flinched at the mention. His name is Kale. He was my husband. But he left me, because my blood is dirty. Mixed with human, she looked down, twisting the blanket in her hands. In his world, that is shame, worse than death. Mara felt a cold anger rise. Abandoning someone in this colony was the same as killing them, but the image of Kale firing, that strange weapon to scare the Sarn away, stayed in her mind. He hadn't truly left her to die, not yet, before Mara could ask more. A loud beep sounded from the wall, the outpost's motion sensors. She crossed to the console and checked the screen, for heat signatures were moving slowly toward the building from the east. Too small to be Sarn, too slow to be human patrol. Stay. Here, Mara said, but Leora was already standing. They are not Sarn. They are worse, she whispered. Her voice shook now, but her eyes burned with urgency. The outpost door was thick steel, but Mara still slid the heavy bolt into place. The shapes outside came closer, and then stopped. Silence fell, except for the faint crackle of the storm. Then a voice spoke from beyond the door. It was calm, almost kind. Mara Vale. We mean no harm. Give us the girl, and we will leave. Mara's skin crawled. She hadn't given her name. How do you know who I am? She shouted back. A low chuckle came. We know many things, Captain. We also know that if you keep her, the Sarn will come again, and next time, even Kale will not save you. Leora stepped back, shaking her head violently. Don't open it. Please, she whispered, clutching Mara's arm. Mara aimed her pistol at the door. Who are you? She demanded. The voice answered, We are the Collectors. And she belongs to us. The words hit Mara like ice. Collectors, a name she had heard only in rumors. They were said to trade in living beings, selling them to the highest bidder across the galaxy. Us. Wide, but they never returned. You have 10 seconds. The voice said, now hard and cold. The sound of something mechanical began outside. A low worry, like a drill warming up. Mara glanced at Leora, who was breathing fast, panic rising. We can't fight them, Leora said. They're weapons. They burn the air itself. Then we run, Mara replied. She grabbed a pack, shoved ammo and a medkit inside, and pulled Leora toward the back exit.
Ow.
The storm slapped them with cold rain as they stepped outside, but Mara didn't slow. She knew the Collectors would break through in seconds. They ran along the muddy path behind the outpost. The wind howled, carrying the distant sound of the mechanical drill cutting into metal. Mara pushed harder, her boots splashing in deep puddles. Leora struggled to keep up. But fear gave her strength. They reached the old service tunnel at the edge of the colony. It was dark. The smell of rust and damp filling the air. Mara switched. On her small wrist light, the beams slicing through the black. This leads to the ridge, she said. We can hide there until I figure out. A sharp noise echoed through the tunnel. Not footsteps, not breathing, but a faint click-click. Like metal claws on stone, Leora froze. Her face draining of color. They found us, she whispered from the darkness ahead. 2 glowing yellow eyes appeared. Then another pair, and another. The Sarn. Mara raised her pistol, firing at the first shadow. The tunnel lit up with blue. Flashes as the shots hit. One of the creatures shrieked, retreating into the dark. But more were coming, crawling along the walls and ceiling. Suddenly, a blinding white light filled the tunnel. The Sarn screamed and scattered, vanishing into cracks in the stone. Mara shielded her eyes, and through the glare, she saw him, Kale, again. This time his weapon was different, humming with dangerous energy. "You are a fool," he said to Mara, his voice sharp. "The collectors are here, and you lead her into the open." Mara stepped forward, anger flaring. "Then tell me why they want her." Kale's eyes flicked to Leora, then back to Mara. "Because she is not what she seems," he said. And with that, he turned, gesturing for them to follow, behind them. The faint echo of the collector's mechanical drill grew louder. Mara didn't like trusting him, but at that moment, she knew they had no choice. The tunnel shook as Kale led them deeper. His silver skin reflected the white glow from his strange weapon, making him look more like a ghost than a man. Leora stayed close to Mara, her steps quick, but her eyes never leaving Kale's back. "Where are we going?" Mara asked. Kale didn't slow. "To a place the collectors cannot track." Not easily, his voice was sharp, but there was tension in it, a crack of worry he was trying to hide. The air grew colder as they moved. Pipes dripped water from above, and the tunnel narrowed until they had to walk single file. Finally, Kale stopped at a rusted door hidden in the rock. He pressed his palm to a small panel, alien symbols glowed blue, and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a small chamber lit by soft green light. Old crates lined the walls, and the air smelled faintly of burnt metal. Kale shut the door behind them, locking it with a code Mara couldn't read. "This will hold them for now," he said. Setting his weapon on a crate, Leora stayed near the wall, her hands clutching the blanket Mara had given her. Mara stepped forward, her patience gone. "You keep showing up, saving her, dessing her, but never explaining anything," she said. Her pistol was still in her hand, and she didn't lower it. "What is she?" Kale's eyes flicked to Leora. For a long moment he didn't answer. Then he said, "She is not just my former wife. She is the last carrier of the key strain." Leora shook her head. "Stop." But Kale continued, "It is in her blood. A genetic code older than my people, older than the war. It can open the gates." Mara frowned. "Gates." Kale stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Ancient machines, hidden on dead worlds. They can move armies across light years, in seconds, or destroy entire planets." Leora's voice trembled. "I never wanted this. I didn't even know until they tested me." Kale's gaze softened for just a moment. "When I learned, I tried to hide her, but the collectors found us. The Sarn hunt her because they are bred to guard the gates. They will kill anyone. Who can open them?" Mara tried to take it in. The storm outside, the attacks, at the strange symbols on Leora's skin. It all connected now, but it also meant something worse. The collectors get her, they could sell her to the highest. Bitter. "And whoever buys her could open the gates?" Kale nodded once, "And that would end your world." The silence that followed was heavy. Only the hum of the wall panels filled the space. Then, from somewhere far down the tunnel, a faint thud echoed. Kale's head snapped toward the sound. "They found the outer entrance," he said. Grabbing his weapon, Mara tightened her grip on her pistol. "How many?" she asked. Kale's eyes seemed to focus beyond the walls. "Enough to burn this chamber to dust." Leora stepped forward, her voice urgent. "We can't keep running. They'll never stop." Her eyes met Mara's. "There is one place. They will not follow." The gate itself, Kale's expression darkened. "That is madness," he said. "The Sarn will be there, and the gate will react to her blood." But Leora didn't back down. "If we keep hiding, they will catch me, and then everyone dies." She turned to Mara. "Help me get there." "You're human. They won't expect you to lead me," Mara hesitated. It was insane, running straight toward the thing everyone wanted. But the alternative was worse. "How far?" she asked. Kale looked between them, his jaw tight too. "Days walk through the black ravine. If we survive the storm and the Sarn patrols." Another thud shook the walls, closer this time. The green lights flickered, and the door panel glowed red. Kale moved fast, opening a hidden hatch and... "The floor! Down!" he ordered. "Now!" Mara slid into the narrow shaft first, the metal cold against her hands. Leora followed. Then Kale dropped in behind them. Sealing the hatch above, they slid down into darkness. Landing in a shallow pool of water, the smell was sharp minerals and rust. Kale switched on a small lantern. They were in another tunnel, wider, with strange carvings in the walls. Mara traced one with her hand. It was the same pattern she'd seen burned into Leora's skin. They marked the path to the gate, Kale said, his voice low. The air was heavy here, and every sound echoed far. In the distance, water dripped. Steadily, like a clock counting down, they moved quickly. But Mara kept glancing back. She couldn't shake the feeling they were being followed. Then, far behind, she saw it, a brief flash of light. White and sharp, the collectors had found. The hatch Kale noticed too. "We run," he said simply. And his voice left no room for argument. As they hurried deeper into the carved tunnel, Mara felt the weight of Leora's secret settle in her mind. The key strain wasn't just her problem now, it was theirs. And somewhere ahead, past the darkness and the danger, was the gate, waiting for the one person in the galaxy who could wake it. The tunnel air grew warmer as they moved. It was not the warmth of sunlight, but the thick heat of trapped air, heavy and stale. Mara could feel sweat along her neck. But the cold knot of fear inside her stayed. After hours of walking, they reached a split in the tunnel. One side was blocked by fallen stone, the other sloped upward. Glowing faintly with natural light, Kale stopped, scanning the ground. "This is the last safe tunnel," he said. "Beyond this, we entered the Black Ravine." Mara had heard the name before, whispered by soldiers who had been stationed near the old mining zones. A deep scar in the planet's surface, miles long, crawling with predators and strange weather that could kill in minutes. "Why go through it?" she asked. Kale's eyes stayed on Leora, because the gate rests in its heart. They climbed the slope until the tunnel mouth opened into blinding daylight. The wind hit them first, hot, dry, and carrying a sharp smell of minerals and ash. The Black Ravine stretched before them like the wound of a giant. Jagged cliffs fell away into mist, the bottom hidden far below. Bridges of stone and twisted metal stretched across at strange angles, some broken, some swaying dangerously. Mara scanned the horizon, no movement, no sign of the collectors. But that didn't make her relax. Kale crouched, checking a small wrist device. "They're not far, maybe half a day behind," he said. Leora's face was pale, but her eyes were set with quiet determination. "How do we cross?" she asked. Kale pointed to a half-broken bridge of black stone. "It will hold. If you don't look down." The first steps were steady, the stone warm under their boots, but as they reached the middle, the wind screamed through the gap. Mara kept her eyes forward, refusing to look at the endless drop below. Leora's steps slowed, her hand brushing the guide rope for balance. Behind them, a low rumble echoed from the cliffs. "Don't stop," Kale said sharply. They moved faster, the bridge groaning under their weight. When they reached the other side, Mara turned to see chunks of stone falling into the mist. The path they had just crossed crumbled away completely. "That was close," Mara said, her voice tight. Kale didn't reply. His eyes were fixed on something in the distance. They followed a narrow ledge along the cliff wall, the heat pressing against their skin. Halfway along, Mara noticed strange marks on the rock, deep scratches, like something with massive claws had passed this way. Leora touched one, her fingers trembling. "They're near," she whispered. Kale's jaw tightened. "Sarn Patrol." Mara drew her pistol. "How many?" Kale's answer was grim. "Enough to make us wish for the collectors instead." The sound came before the shapes, a clicking hiss that echoed in the hot air. Then, from the shadows ahead, they emerged tall, insect-like, armored in black. Plates that shimmered with heat, their eyes burned yellow, their legs ending in hooked claws that dug into the rock with each step. Kale raised his weapon. The first blast lit the ravine walls with white fire. Sarn fell, but more climbed down from above. The movements fast and unnerving. Mara fired, aiming for the gaps in their armor. Leora stayed low, her eyes darting between Kale and the advancing creatures. One Sarn leaped, landing between Mara and Leora, Its claws swung wide. Mara ducked. Firing point blank into its chest, it screeched, stumbling backward, before falling into the mist below. Cale grabbed Leora's arm, pulling her toward a crack in the cliff wall. "In here!" he shouted. They squeezed inside just as more Sarn appeared, blocking the ledge outside. The crack opened into a narrow cavern. The air cooler but filled with the distant hum of energy. Faint blue light pulsed along the walls. Mara noticed the patterns again, the same gate symbols burned into Leora's skin. She turned to Cale. "You knew this place was here," she said. Cale didn't deny it. "I've been here before." Years ago, before I left her, his voice was low, almost regretful. "I thought the gate was lost, but I found one of the markers. I just didn't know then that she was the key." Mara's suspicion sharpened. "You're not doing this to save her, you're doing it because you want the gate." Cale's eyes flashed. "I want to keep it out of the hands of the collectors, and your kind as well." His gaze was cold now. "Humans are no better. You'd use it as a weapon." "Two." Before Mara could answer, a sharp crack echoed behind them. The rock wall at the cavern entrance splintered. The Sarn were forcing their way inside, their claws digging through stone. Leora stepped forward, her eyes locked on the glowing patterns. "On the wall? We can't fight them all," she said, her voice steady now. "But I can open the first seal." Cale spun toward her. "No, the moment you touch it. The gate will start to wake, and every Sarn in the ravine will come. They're already coming." Mara said, her pistol ready. "Do it, Leora." Placed her hand on the largest glowing mark. The light flared brighter, spreading in sharp lines across the cavern walls. The hum deepened into a low, steady pulse that seemed to shake the ground. Outside, the Sarn hissed louder, and from deep within the ravine, something answered them. A sound older and more dangerous than anything Mara had ever heard. The cavern walls shook as the glowing lines spread. They crawled upward like rivers of light, joining in the ceiling to form a single blazing circle. The hum became a deep, steady beat like the heartbeat of something ancient. Dust fell from above, and the air grew warmer. Leora kept her hand pressed to the mark. Her eyes were closed, lips moving in a whisper too soft to understand. The symbols on her skin glowed now, answering the light on the walls. Mara could feel the energy in her bones. It was more than light, more than sound. It was alive. Cale moved closer, his voice sharp. "Stop this before it's too late." But Leora didn't move. The ground trembled again, harder this time. From somewhere deep below, a distant roar rose. Not the Sarn's hiss, but something heavier, older, outside the cavern. The Sarn froze for a heartbeat, then they screamed, a high, frantic sound, instead of rushing in. They began climbing away, their claws scraping desperately at the cliff walls. "They're running," Mara said, shocked. Cale's face tightened. "They know what's coming." The circle in the ceiling split open like a giant eye. A column of blue-white light poured down, striking the floor with a sound like tearing metal. Where it touched, the stone melted into smooth, black glass in the center. A shape began to form, tall, thin, and shifting, as if made of smoke and steel. Mara stepped back.
"Ah!"
Her pistol feeling small in her hand. The thing rose higher, taking a form that was not quite human and not quite alien. It had no face, only a mask of shifting light. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. "Kibera, you wake me after long silence." Leora's voice was trembling now, but she answered, "I need passage." The figure tilted its head. "Passage is death for many. Why do you seek the gate?" Cale stepped forward. "Because the collectors are coming, and if they take her..." The figure's head turned toward him. "You are of the silver blood." "Oathbreaker," it said, and Cale froze as if struck. Mara frowned. "Oathbreaker?" Cale's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The figure shifted its gaze to Mara. "You are human. Your kind was warned never to touch the gates." Its voice had no anger, only a strange weight, like an ancient law being repeated. Leora pulled her hand back, and the lights dimmed slightly. The shaking slowed.
"Oh."
But the air was still thick with heat and power. "They won't stop hunting me," she said, her voice stronger now. I can't keep running. I need the gate to take me somewhere they can't follow. The figure was silent for a moment. Then it said, there is such a place. But to reach it, you must pass through the black core. Kale's head snapped up. That will kill her. The figure's voice was calm. It will kill the unworthy, but she carries the key strain. She may survive, before anyone could. Answer. A sharp crack rang through the cavern, not from the gate, but from the cliff above. Mara spun toward the entrance. Figures in dark armor were lowering themselves down on black cables, weapons ready. The collectors, she hissed. Kale grabbed his weapon, firing the first shot. One collector fell, his cable snapping, his body vanishing into the mist. The rest returned fire, blue energy bolts slamming into the rock and sending shards flying. The gate figure raised one long arm. A wall of shimmering light appeared at the entrance, blocking the shots, but the figure's voice echoed in their minds. My protection is short. Choose now. Leora looked at Mara, her eyes wide but steady. If I go through, there's no coming back, she said. Mara hesitated. Every instinct told her this was too dangerous.
Ouse.
Too unknown. But the thought of the collectors taking her, opening the gates for war, was worse. Do it, Mara said. Kale stepped closer, his voice sharp. If she dies, the gates close forever, then no one gets them. Mara shot back. Leora took a deep breath and stepped into the black glass circle. The gate's light flared, wrapping around her like liquid fire. Her body arched, a cry tearing from her lips. The air exploded with heat, and for a moment Mara thought she saw something behind the light, a vast, endless void filled with distant stars. Then the light swallowed Leora completely. The figure turned to Mara and Kale. She has begun the passage, it said. The barrier at the entrance flickered. The hunters come. You must hold until she is through. Kale reloaded, glancing at Mara. Looks like we fight together, human. Mara checked her pistol. Let's make sure she makes it. Outside, the collectors were cutting through the barrier. They're dark. Forms moving like shadows against the stormlit ravine. The hum of the gate grew louder behind them, and somewhere inside that light, Leora was walking into the unknown. The light around Leora became everything. It was not warmth, not cold, only pressure. As if the air itself was holding her in place, she couldn't see her hands. Only endless shifting colors like fire trapped in water. Then, suddenly, her feet touched solid ground. The world around her was black. But not empty. Shapes moved far in the distance, huge. Slow, like mountains walking. Above, there was no sky. Only a swirling mass of dark energy shot through with streaks of red. The air vibrated with a deep sound. Like a slow heartbeat, Leora took a step forward. The ground felt like smooth stone, but it pulsed faintly under her boots. A voice spoke, not from the air, but from inside her mind. Kibera. This is the black core. It was the same voice as the gate figure. To pass, you must endure the trials. Fail, and you will remain. Here until the core consumes you. Leora's throat tightened. What kind of trials? She asked. The voice answered. Those that test what you are, not just what you can do. She walked forward, and the darkness shifted. A doorway appeared ahead, tall, sharp-edged, glowing faintly. As she stepped through, the world changed. She was standing in the middle of a bright, crowded marketplace. Human and alien faces everywhere. The smell of cooked food, the sound of traders shouting. It was familiar. This was the Earth Colony market she had visited years ago. Before Kale. Before all of this. Her heart ached as she saw them. Her mother and younger brother, smiling at a stall. She wanted to run to them. But the voice in her head whispered, they are not real. The core will tempt you with what you have lost. Her mother turned toward her. Eyes warm. Leora, come home, she said softly. Leora's chest tightened. She wanted to believe it, but she forced herself to step back. The moment she did, the image cracked like glass and fell away. The darkness returned, and another door appeared. This time, out she stepped into a battlefield. Fires burning, smoke thick in the air. Kale stood in front of her. Wounded, surrounded by Sarn, his voice was urgent. Help me. and I will protect you. She knew this wasn't real either. The Kale in her memory had never begged, never asked for help. Still, the sight of him bleeding made her want to move. The voice warned, "The core will try to bind you with guilt." She stepped past him. Without looking back, the image broke apart when the darkness returned. There were no more doors, only a bridge stretching into the void cross, and you will reach the other side. The voice said Leora began walking. The bridge was narrow, and wind, if it was wind, roared from below, halfway across. Shapes began to rise from the void, thin, pale, with long fingers and no faces. They reached for her, whispering her name in voices that were almost her own. She kept moving, ignoring them, but one grabbed her arm. Its touch burned cold. She pulled free and ran. The bridge shook under her feet, but she didn't stop until she stepped onto solid ground again. Before her stood a black door covered in glowing patterns, the same ones burned into her skin. "You have endured," the voice said. "Step through, and the core will release you." She took a deep breath and touched the door. It swung open, and the light returned, swallowing her whole. The light was blinding. Mara felt her body pulled in every direction at once. Her ears rang with a sound like rushing wind and breaking glass. Then suddenly it was over. Her boots hit solid ground. The air here was cool, crisp, carrying the scent of something green alive. When her eyes adjusted, she saw they stood on a wide plain under a violet sky. Strange mountains rose in the distance, their peaks glowing faintly. Above them hung two suns, one pale gold, the other deep red. Kale stepped out of the fading light, weapon still in hand. Scanning the horizon, no collectors, no Sarn. Nothing moved except a gentle wind bending the tall grass. "We're safe?" Mara asked. "For now," Kale said, though his voice carried no comfort. Leora stood between them, her eyes still glowing faintly. "The gate brought us where I asked," she said. Mara looked around. "Where is here?" Leora's gaze swept the horizon. A dead world, but one the collectors cannot enter. Kale frowned. "Dead." Leora nodded. Its star was poisoned centuries ago. No life remains, except what the core allows. She touched the ground, and for a moment, the grass under her fingers glowed softly. "The key strain keeps me alive here, and anyone I choose to protect." Mara studied her. Something about Leora was different now, stronger, but also distant. What happened in the core? She asked. Leora's eyes met hers. "It showed me what I am," she said, "and what I can be, if I choose." Before Mara could ask more, Kale stepped forward. "Now that you've passed, every gate in the galaxy will feel it. You won't just be hunted by the collectors or the Sarn. There are others who will come." His words carried an edge. "You'll need someone who knows their ways." "Someone like me?" Mara narrowed her eyes. "Why? 'Cause you still think you can control her?" Kale didn't flinch. "Because I know what happens when the wrong hands open the gates." "You don't." Leora looked between them. "I don't need either of you to control me," she said calmly. "But I might need you to help me choose where to go next." The ground beneath them trembled slightly. Mara's hand went to her pistol. Kale scanned the horizon. "It's not the collectors," he said slowly. From the far mountains, the line of light rose into the sky. It pulsed once, then again, like a beacon. Leora's expression changed. Part recognition, part warning. "The gates are speaking to each other." She said, "This world may be dead, but its gate isn't." Mara felt the weight of it settle in her chest. "So this isn't the end," she said quietly. Leora shook her head. "It's only the first step." They set up camp in the shadow of a broken stone tower. Kale kept watch, eyes scanning the violet horizon. Mara sat beside a small fire, the warmth barely cutting through the alien air. Leora stood apart, her gaze fixed on the glowing peaks. "You could stay here," Mara said finally. "They'd never find you." Leora didn't turn and wait for them to hunt someone else, for another keybearer to be born and suffer this. She looked at Mara now, her eyes fierce. "I passed the trials for a reason. The gates can destroy, but they can also build." If humans and aliens both fear me, maybe I can make them fear me for the right reasons. Kale's voice came from the edge of camp. Or they'll unite against you, and we'll be running again. Leora gave a small smile. Then, I'll run faster. The night deepened. The red sun sinking below the horizon, leaving only the pale gold above. Strange stars appeared brighter and closer than the ones. Over Earth, Mara lay back on the grass, listening to the alien wind. She knew this wasn't over. If anything, it was bigger than before, in the morning. They would decide, follow the beacon toward the next gate, or hide and prepare. Either way, the galaxy was changing, somewhere out there. The collectors would regroup, the Sarn would return, and others worse or better would learn the key strain still lived. For now, under the twin suns, 3 unlikely allies shared a fragile peace. A soldier who'd never asked for this fight, a silver-skinned exile with too many secrets, a woman whose blood could open the paths between stars, the gate that brought them here stood silent. But in the distance, the beacon pulsed again, steady, patient. A reminder that the journey was far from over, and when the time came, they would step through again. Not to run, but to decide who would own the future.